Thanks for tuning into Dirty Teeth and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go through the Redshift Sports PRO Shockstop Stem and Kitchen Sink Handlebar system for drop bar bikes. I've ridden these extensively for a few months now and I'm ready to offer my 2 cents of their performance for off-road endurance rides and bike packing. Let's begin. When I say Kitchen Sink Handlebar system, what am I talking about? Well, you start with the Kitchen Sink Handlebar, slap on some top grips and drop grips, and finish it off with the super long bar tape. Redshift designed it all as part of a complete cockpit, but each part is also available individually so you can mix and match to suit your needs. Their goal is to offer the ultimate gravel bar setup for epic rides, reducing fatigue and saving some wear and tear on your arms and hands over the long haul. Connect the kitchen sink to your bike with their PRO Shockstop Stem and we're talking even more cushion for the pushing. With that said, let's go over each component in detail, starting with the stem. FYI, I already put out videos of Redshift's original Shockstop Stem as well as their suspension seat posts, so if you're interested in those, links are in the description below. Spoiler alert, I really love the stem and it takes the curse off of washboards and small vibrations. The Pro model rides and feels pretty much identical to its predecessor with 3 key changes. It's lost a little weight, looks a little sexier, and this comes with a slight increase in price. Weight specs are listed for all stem sizes on Redshift's website, but you can figure on the Pro being about 30 grams lighter for the 80 and 90 millimeter lengths, and it's about 40 to 50 grams lighter for the respective 100 to 120 millimeter lengths. The weight loss is achieved with titanium pivot and mounting bolts, as well as extra CNC machining all around, especially on the faceplate. It does so while keeping the same rider weight limit of 300 pounds. P.S. I was really impressed that Redshift specs anti-seize on the titanium stem bolts. That's a pro move. Titanium doesn't always play well with other metals, so anti-seize is a better choice than grease. Also, when tightening tie bolts, be extra cautious about torque values. I recommend using a torque wrench since they're more prone to failing and snapping off if you get ham-fisted. Sorry for the PSA. Where was I? The extra machining and blacked out logos give the stem an extra slender and stealthier look than before. So what's the price for the diet and makeover? The Pro model retails for $70 more than the original version, boosting the price tag up to $230. Is it worth the loot? That's up to you and how important aesthetics and shaving a few grams are. But yes, if you spend a decent amount of time behind bars on gravel, then either version of the Shockstop Stem is a worthy upgrade. Anywho, for some context, I switched from a 90mm Shockstop Stem to an 80mm Pro version. Since the stack height is identical, it was a simple swap. At the time I got the original, 90mm was the shortest available, and I'm glad they now offer 80mm in both versions. There's slightly less suspension travel on the shorter stem, but it's barely noticeable and it fits my setup better. Especially since my previous bars were 44 centimeters wide, and I'm now using the size 47 kitchen sink bars. Nice segue. The kitchen sink bars are available in 44, 47, or 50 centimeter widths. There's also an optional loop up front, offering more hand positions, as well as mounting points for lights, electronics, etc. I decided to try the bars with the built-in loop to see if I liked them enough to ditch my aero bars on some longer rides and bikepacking missions. My scale puts these bars at a hefty 486 grams. About 100 grams of that weight is due to the integrated endurance loop. But if it shaves added weight from aero bars, that should also be a consideration. It's no secret these aren't the lightest bars out there, especially when compared to some similar carbon options. For reference, the Easton AX70 bars I had on before these weigh only 222 grams. Redshift is all about maximizing comfort over the long haul. So in my mind, if these are extra comfy, they're worth their weight in gold. Speaking of comfort, the bars offer a 110mm drop, 25-degree drop flare angle, 7mm sweep, and 20mm rise. The reach is 70mm for the 44cm bars, 68mm for the 47s, and 65mm for the 50s. This puts them in a similar category as Salsa's Cow Chipper or the NBG series bar. The goal of the wide and flare geometry is to offer your hands and wrists a more neutral position with less pressure. As far as price goes, the bars retail for $100 without the loop and $130 with. You may also be wondering if there's a carbon version of this bar in the pipeline. Eric confirmed there are plans on releasing a carbon bar in the future, but not right away. He wants some time to gather some real-world feedback and refine it some more before putting it into production. You know, I'm looking forward to it. Moving on to the next part of the system, we have the cruise control top grips and drop grips. These can be purchased as a set or individually. I use Ergon GS grips on all my flat bar bikes, and these are similar to them in concept. The goal is to spread the contact point of your palms across the bar, minimizing the chance for hot spots and numbness. Both the top and drop grips are made of Kraton. It's a polymer that holds its shape like plastic, but still has the dampening characteristics of rubber. In layman's terms, it helps absorb some chatter, which is always nice. I won't delve into the installation process. The bars install like every other bar, and Eric at Redshift does a great job going through the grip install in his videos. There's also comprehensive instructions included with the grips. I will give you the heads up that the top grip installation is a bit tedious. It takes a little time and patience to get them to sit properly with the double-sided tape, but it is nice that they include a roll of strapping tape to help lock everything into place. Once you set the grips, the double-sided tape needs 24 hours to cure, and you're pretty much married to the angle. So be sure you dial them into your liking before you commit. I line the grips up at 90 degrees per Redshift's recommendation. The hash marks on the kitchen sink bar made lining up the left and right grip a breeze. As far as the drop grips go, they were super easy to install. They pretty much work like any mountain biking lock-on grip. I'll chat about the bar tape in a sec, but there's a mark on the kitchen sink drops that show you where to start wrapping the tape. If you're using different bars, you'll have to measure 95 millimeters from the end of the drops to where you start wrapping the tape. Then you install the grips, which will slightly overlap the tape for a nice transition. One tip is to spray some Windex on the grips while putting them on. It makes it way easier to slide them around and rotate them to your liking. Unlike the top grips, these are very easy to micro adjust and fine tune later, especially since they're not wrapped with bar tape after the fact. I set them at 45 degrees, also per Redshift's recommendation. A note worth mentioning is these aren't always compatible with bars that employ a secondary bend in the drop area. My buddy is using these just fine with his NVG series gravel bar, but if you've got something with a more pronounced ergonomic bend, you might want to double check with Redshift. Okay, so if you buy the grips separately, they'll run you 30 bucks each. If you buy them together, it's 55, saving you 5 bucks. In terms of weight, the top grips come in at 95 grams. The drop grips are 139 grams, including end caps. This potentially adds around 245 grams onto an already heavy bar, so it's worth mentioning. Next is the Cruise Control really long bar tape. As the name says, it's really long, 315 centimeters to be exact. This is long enough to cover the widest kitchen sink bar, including the endurance loop with drop grips installed. For comparison, my usual bar tape is only 208 centimeters long. I should note that if you're not using the drop grips, you might still need to add some tape to fully cover the endurance loop, especially if you're like me and wrap your tape tight around the bends to avoid gaps. The tape is 3 millimeters thick, uses anti-vibration closed cell foam, and a polyurethane outer layer. The weight is 116 grams, including 2 rolls and the supplied end plugs. The price is $40. By the way, the expanding plugs are much nicer than the cheapy push-ins that come with most tapes. So those are all the techie specs of each puzzle piece, and it all looks great on paper. But the million-dollar question is, how does it all perform? I've now put about 1,000 miles of dedicated off-road riding on this setup. This includes multiple 100+ mile days, as well as various bikepacking missions. With that said, here's my take, starting with the bars. I should have gone wider. I think the 50s would have worked better for me, especially with the amount of bikepacking I do. I know it's nitpicky, but my cockpit felt cramped with the top grips on. Also, the nice effect of the 7-degree sweep was mitigated a little on the shorter bars. The 20 mil rise is great, and it gets you in a slightly more upright position when cruising along. In terms of compliance or forgiveness, it was also really similar to my previous bar. But I am using the Shockstop Stem, so it's hard to say how it would fare on its own. Regardless, I really enjoyed the feel of the bar. If I were to start over, I'd go without the built-in endurance loop. Don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed it. I just don't like being married to it. For a lot of my riding, it's neither here nor there. Sometimes I'd rather have nothing in a more minimal cockpit. On some longer rides and for bikepacking, I still prefer full-on aero bars. In these cases, the hoop is redundant. It does provide a couple different hand positions, which is nice. I often found myself using the top grips as a forearm rest and just dangling my hands and wrists out in front of the hoop. I found this pretty comfy and relaxing for longer sections of flat gravel. But again, most of the time, I'd still prefer traditional aero bars. These Control-Tech mini aero bars have almost the same dimensions as the Redshift loop, but they're removable and have dedicated forearm pads. This is a great modular option in lieu of the built-in loop. I did like the loop for mounting a light or my Garmin, and I did this a bunch. You can also fit a feed bag perfectly in the middle of the loop, which I also did a lot. I also used it with feed bags mounted traditionally to the stem, and although it was a bit cramped, they never got in the way of the top grips. One time I also lashed a dry bag directly to the hoop with a couple ski straps and no harness. It looked a little funky, but it worked great and never came loose. That was pretty cool, but still, if I had to pick between the two, I'd get the version without the loop. In concept, the top grips are great. They offer a nice big platform for your hands. For me, they were almost too big. They were fine for relaxed riding and cruising, but when aggressively riding anything technical or chunky, I felt I was lacking control. With the tape wrapped around them, they're pretty fat, and I felt my grip was compromised, especially on anything sketchy. If you're using something like the Shimano GRX inline sub levers on your tops, this could be annoying. But if you're riding mostly mellow gravel and not much technical terrain, it's probably a non-issue. Just figured I'd mention it. It's also worth thinking about if you have smaller hands or prefer skinnier bar tape. As far as the drop grips go, I wound up digging them way more than I thought I would. I found them super comfy. During high-speed descents, I felt great control and didn't have to clench the bar too tight, even through chunky terrain. My hands never felt like they were gonna slide off, and they maintained a solid grippy feel no matter what the weather. I don't usually position my hands all the way at the bottom of the drops. They're usually a little higher up the bend, so I'm in a better position to grab my brake levers. One of the knocks I've heard on these grips is they don't reach the area your hands are typically in while you're braking. I mount my shifters and brake levers pretty low. This way I can reach them with minimal effort and without bending my wrists. Over the course of a long day or on a multi-day bikepacking race, I find this really helps with fatigue. Anywho, I could reach my levers just fine and still get enough palm support from the top part of the grips. The 45-degree angle seemed like it would be weird, but I never wound up tweaking it. That angle minimized the bend in my wrist and kept the blood flowing. Another appealing bonus is how quick and easy these install. You can even put them on your current bar without any drama. You don't even have to replace your bar tape, you just cut it a little shorter and slap these on. Overall, I think of both grips as a viable upgrade. It's funny, before I tried them, I thought I'd love the top grips more and be meh about the drops. But if I had to choose between the two now, I'd probably stick with the drop grips and revert back to my beloved Physic bar gel for the tops. Regarding the tape, I was pleasantly surprised. Obviously, the length is the big selling point, but it actually felt great too. The 3mm thickness offered a nice cushiony feel. It's very similar to my preferred Lizard Skins DSP tape with a 2.5mm thickness. The polyurethane outer layer offered a nice texture and tackiness even when wet. After months of beating it up, it's barely showing any signs of wear. It still looks brand new and feels pretty much like it did on day one. However, if you're looking for bling, don't bother. It's currently only offered in black or gray. Maybe if it's popular enough, they'll add some colors to the line. After wrapping my bars, I had plenty left over to cover the hoop, but I chose some different tape to add some color for fun. That's pretty much all I've got to say about the Redshift Kitchen Sink system. As a whole, there are definitely way more pros than cons. Whether you go with the complete system or mix and match parts to your taste, I definitely consider the upgrade. My hands and wrists are very happy. No numbness, tingling, pain, or discomfort whatsoever. Same with fatigue and soreness. Nada. If you have issues with any of these, give the kitchen sink system a shot. As always, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Are you currently using the system or parts of it? Is it on your radar? What similar products are you stoked on or are considering? Let her rip in the comment section down below. I upload fresh mountain biking and bikepacking content every week, so please consider subscribing to the channel and tapping the notification bell. If you want to become a trail angel and join our Trail Magic Monday initiative, please visit our Patreon page. Until next time, ride bikes, give back, pay it forward. Thanks so much for squeezing dirty teeth into your busy schedule. Please help us reach more people and ensure you receive new videos by giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the notification bell. Until next time, ride bikes, give back, pay it forward.